Hello, what do we have here today? OEM suspension from a classic hypercar. We are talking about shock absorbers from a 2004 Porsche Carrera GT 980. A V10 engine with 612 horsepower, an extremely interesting and rare car. These are the rear shock absorbers. In a moment we will also show the front ones. This is an original OEM shock absorber and it's a coilover, meaning the springs can be preloaded. This is extremely rare for factory OEM shock absorbers because the manufacturer believes that the end customer should not be able to change the ride height of the car and the spring preload. However, this is a sports car, which is why the manufacturer has allowed such an option. The suspension is made by ZF Sachs. Here is the part number. It has leaked. Now we will remove the spring and put it on the dyno stand to see how it works. The shock absorber is not adaptive, but that does not stop it from being an interesting and high-quality sports shock absorber from a hypercar. Here are the front ones. An interesting thing is the following. You can see how much it has leaked. For example, from one of the rear shocks we drained only about 50 milliliters of oil. The car is very light. With empty, leaked shock absorbers, the car works only on springs and even feels excessively soft. These are shock absorbers that are not adjustable, they are designed for racing. Sports shock absorbers for a sports car, and sometimes when we repair them, and they work as they should, you may feel something like a loss of comfort. In fact, instead of working only on the spring, we add a properly working shock absorber that keeps the car stable on the road. We run an initial dyno test of the shock absorber to see what the problem is. The complaint is that it knocks loudly. It has leaked a lot, and it is almost certain that it has mixed gas with oil. After all, it is 20 years old. At low load, the graph looks relatively good. But already under higher load, distortion of the graph can be seen. And at the highest loads, things are really very bad. We also run a manual test to show you what is being done. First at a speed of 170 mm per second, then at 520 mm per second. And here the graph is already terrible, while at 170 mm per second it is much better. Now we will open it and see what is happening inside. Here is the shock absorber opened. Nothing special, a simple monotube Sachs shock absorber. This is the main culprit, a guide with a pressed-in oil seal which caused the leak. It will be replaced with the improved guides that we always show you. They are serviceable, made from a different alloy, with a much better oil seal that is also replaceable. The difficult part with this shock absorber is the following. First, after the repair, the shock absorber must remain in a completely authentic condition. Because any change to the car, even cosmetic, would lead to a major drop in its value. For this reason, gas charging this shock absorber will be quite complex and done with a special machine.
Пълненето с газ ще бъде доста сложно със специална машина.
Only this way there will be no protruding gas valves anywhere.
Няма никъде стърчащи клапанчета за газ. Нали?
We have shown on other shock absorbers how we install special gas valves for gas charging.
Клапанчета, които слагаме, с които може да се допълва газ.
But here it has to be done without such things, so everything remains flawless and original.
Такива неща, за да всичко да е безупречно и да изглежда както оригинално.
Typical for ZF, here the piston does not seal to the tube with a Teflon seal.
Тавото не уплътнява към тръбата с тефлоново уплътнение.
But with something like a segment, like a metal piston ring,
Като бутален пръстен. Той е бутален пръстен.
we will replace whatever is needed, gas charge it, and show you on the dyno stand how it works.
Стендър как работи.
Here is the final dyno test after the repair, so we can see what the graph looks like after opening and repairing it.
След като сме го
You can see up close that there are absolutely no signs of tampering or repair.
абсолютно никакви следи от докосване на този амортисьор. Тоест,
That means the future residual value of this car will remain as high as possible.
автомобил ще си е както трябва и в бъдеще. Няма нищо.
Everything is in absolutely original OEM condition. Why am I talking about residual value? At the moment when I was testing this shock absorber, I opened online listings in Germany. There are 23 listings for such a Porsche, and prices range between 1.5 and 3 million euros. So the car itself is extremely expensive, and any modification or anything non-original would reduce its value. As you can see, however, we have a completely original, authentic, repaired shock absorber. It works in a completely original way, and as you can see, the graph is flawless. Goodbye, and see you next time.